All right. What's up, everybody? Sorry if I sound out of it. This is gonna sound really dumb, but I was jamming out on my piano and I got into it enough that like I'm out of breath. But to take a quick detour from the kind of path I'm making these videos on, where I'm showing you like chords in keys and then chords to break keys. There's something important now that you know all these chords, secondary dominants, and their functions, right? There's a concept in Western music called cadences. And a cadence sounds like a really fancy thing. All it is a point of rest in music. By that I mean, like, look, I'll give you an example. So, like, you do, like, a 5 chord in C major. Actually, let's put this down an octave. It'll sound better. And then you just do a 1 chord, right? And, like, the music rests on that 1 chord because, you know, you have that tension and then it's resolved. And, you know, you kind of want to chill in that for a bit. You want to really feel it. And that's a cadence. Simply what it is. Now, you can make whatever you want a cadence, but there's a few ones that are very commonly used, and I think they're very good to know. So, we're just going to go through, I think it's like 5 different types of cadences. I might be wrong on that number. But, yeah, so this right here, good point, this sound, that is what we call a perfect authentic cadence. Now what that means is that it is a 5 chord or a 7 chord. It's any chord that is in the dominant function moving to the tonic. So it's usually a 5 chord to a 1 chord. Now, an important thing about the tonic is that it has to be in no inversions for it to be considered a perfect authentic cadence. And when it's called a perfect cadence, that's not referring to the quality like of the cadence as compared to other cadences. It's just called that because, like, you know, you're hearing the tonic. A lot of people consider that, you know, that's like the home. But it doesn't mean it's better than any other cadence. But yeah, if you could also make an imperfect authentic cadence, and that doesn't mean it's worse. It just means it sounds less resolved, where instead of resolving a 5, 7, or a 7 chord to a 1 chord, you resolve it to a 1 chord in first inversion. So the E's at the bottom. So let's really accent that E and put another C. I'll just put we'll fill in a few more chord tones. It'll sound like this. Right? You can kind of see why that's called an imperfect authentic cadence when you compare it to the perfect authentic cadence, because, like, it sounds not as resolution-y. But it's still a nice tool, right? Now there's a very similar type of cadence, and it's called a plagal. I think I'm saying that right. Plagal cadence. The names aren't important as much as the functions are. I believe... Yo, I'm going to do something really unprofessional. Let me Google this shit real quick for you. It is a plagal cadence, yeah. Okay, so a plagal cadence, instead of it being a 5 or a 7 chord going to 1, it's a 4 chord going to 1. And, oh, that's a bit big. So, like, that's what a plagal cadence sounds like. This is a perfect plagal cadence. Because C is not an inversion. And this cadence also has another name called the Amen cadence, because a lot of church and religious music end on this cadence, the 4-1. It's very common. And yeah, so that's a plagal cadence. And then that's a perfect plagal cadence. An imperfect is when you are in first inversion again. And just because it's fun to hear how these things sound, why not play it again? Alright, cool. Now, we get into some of my favorite ones. These ones are a little bit spicier. Okay, so let's look at a deceptive cadence first. This one is absolutely my favorite, I'm pretty sure. I love this one. So this is one, instead of doing a 5 or a 7 to 1, you do a 5 or a 7 to 6. Because remember how I said that 6 could also be considered a tonic. So, and usually people will voice lead this like it's still a 1 chord. So like you'll see the C in the bass line, but then, you know, A, E, because there's 2 common tones. It's not that hard. So it sounds like this. Actually, let's remove that top one. You know, it's different. And what I really like to do is I like to put the A in the bass line, just because that makes it sound more like, whoa, this was unexpected. Like, I love that. That's a deceptive cadence. That's one of my favorites. And then there is a half cadence. A half cadence is really fun. And I wanted to wait until I taught a half cadence until I taught secondary dominants, because a half cadence is when you rest the song on the 5 chord. And a really good way to get to a half cadence is to use the second, like if you're in if you're in C major, the dominant is 5. And if you want to make it sound like a resolution, you can use the secondary dominant, which is, you would use the dominant chord of G major, which is the 5 chord, and the dominant of that is D major. Using the circle of fifths is how you find that out. And yeah, so, but you don't have to use secondary dominants, and I quite like both versions, where you do and you don't use it, right? And I'm just going to try to whip that up really quick. So I'm going to be as generic as possible. We'll do like C, we'll go down to a G, and then we'll go down again to a 4 chord. My bad. I'm really messing this up. Okay. And then we're going to lower it one more to the 5 chord. And then we're just going to rest on there. And we're going to put another G up here. You know, it kind of holds you there, because it's only half resolved. You only set up one half of it. And it sounds really cool, right? And then let's just show me doing that, but making it a secondary dominant. You see, that one sounds a little more, like, resolved. And that's why I also like the other one. Because when you do it without the secondary dominant, it just kind of feels like you're being held in place musically, and it's a really cool feeling. And those are the main cadences. There's another very, very confusing type of cadence, at least how it's taught in music theory classes, but it's actually really simple. It's called a Phrygian cadence. So it's like a plagal cadence, except instead of doing 4 to 1, you just simply do 4 in first inversion. So you want the A to be the bass note. That is a G. So that's a Phrygian cadence. I don't really know why it has such a fancy name. It probably has something to do with the Phrygian mode, which is, modes are a very, very crazy topic, but that'll be for later. I'll talk about modes, but I actually don't quite got them down yet either. I still have to learn about them myself, so. But yeah, that, I believe, is pretty much all the cadences you will find. And it's a lot easier to just remember the functions rather than the names, because, like, okay, 5 to 1 is a cadence, rather than a perfect authentic cadence is when, you know? So, I hope you enjoyed. That is cadences. It's a very fun topic, and this is not, this is not, um, this is not the only type of cadences you can do. You can make up your own cadences. They're all equally valid. Like, these are just ones that are very commonly used, and you'll hear a lot in, like, if you're ever listening to, like, pre 20th century music, you're going to hear that a ton. So, yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. These cadences are very fun to experiment with. I recommend trying to, like, find your own resolutions, your own chords to cadence on. It's fun. And just keep in mind that you don't need, a cadence need not be resolved. Some of the spiciest cadences aren't resolutions. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. Jesus, sorry this went on for 11 minutes. I like to keep these sub 10 minutes, but my bad. See you in 2 days.